The people closest to someone often become the very ones working hardest to see them fail. This sounds harsh, but stick with me for a second. Think about all those times when something great happened in your life and the reactions around the table felt cold or forced. Or when someone in your circle always seems to have something negative to say right when things start looking up for you. These moments are not accidents, and they are not in your head. The truth is that some people wear the mask of friendship while secretly hoping to watch everything fall apart for you. They sit in your living room, laugh at your jokes, and pretend to care about your dreams while silently celebrating every stumble you make along the way. And the worst part is that these people are often the last ones anyone would suspect, because they have gotten so good at pretending. Today we are going to break down 5 clear signs that prove your inner circle might be full of people who actually hate you. Each sign is something real and practical that happens in everyday life. These are patterns that repeat themselves over and over again once someone knows what to look for. Before we get into this, I need to tell you something important. Do not skip around in this video, because each sign builds on the one before it. If watching everything feels like too much time, just speed this up to 1.5 times or even 2 times speed instead of jumping ahead. Missing even one part could mean missing the exact sign that applies to the situation happening right now. So let's get straight into this, because what comes next might completely change how certain relationships are viewed forever. Here is where things get interesting and honestly a little bit sad when we really think about it. Picture this moment right here. Something amazing just happened to you. Maybe a promotion came through at work, or that side project finally took off, or someone special actually said yes to going out. The first thing most people do is reach for the phone to share the news with someone close. That makes sense, right? But here is what happens next that should make anyone pay attention. The person on the other end of that message or call does not match the energy at all. The response feels flat and sounds like they are reading from a script they did not even want to memorize in the first place. Something like, "Oh, that is cool," or "good for you," and then complete silence or an immediate change of topic. Compare that to what happens when something goes wrong. When the car breaks down, or that job interview does not go well, or some embarrassing thing happens at a family dinner. Suddenly that same person is texting back within seconds. They want all the details right away. Their voice gets higher and faster, and they lean into every single word, like it is the most fascinating story they have heard all year. Their eyes actually light up, and they ask a million follow-up questions, wanting to know exactly what went wrong, and how it felt, and what happened next. That right there is sign number 1 out of 5 total signs we are covering today. The body language tells the whole story, even when their words try to hide it. When good news gets shared, their smile looks like someone is holding their face in that position against their will. The corners of their mouth go up, but nothing else on their face moves along with it. But when bad news drops, everything about them comes alive. They lean forward in their seat, and their eyebrows raise up, and that concerned look spreads across their whole face, except it is not actual concern at all. It is excitement disguised as caring, and the difference becomes obvious once someone knows what to look for. Then comes the tone of voice, which might be even more telling than anything else. Good news gets met with this flat, almost annoyed sounding, "Yeah, congratulations," that feels like they are doing a chore. Bad news, though, brings out this warm, engaged tone, where they suddenly sound like the most caring person on the planet, asking things like, "Oh no, what happened, and how are you holding up, and tell me everything." The energy difference is so huge it would be funny if it was not so messed up. And here is another thing that happens without fail. Share something good, and within 10 seconds they have somehow made it about themselves and their own problems. It is like watching someone play a game where the goal is to one-up every piece of good news with their own struggle. Someone gets a raise, and suddenly they are talking about how their bills are so high and they are barely making it. Someone loses weight, and suddenly they are going on about how their metabolism is terrible and how hard everything is for them. The good news just disappears under the weight of their need to shift focus back to their own drama. It is wild how fast it happens too. The conversation does not even get a chance to breathe before it becomes all about them again. But notice how when something bad gets shared, they never interrupt or redirect. They let that conversation run as long as possible, because they are actually enjoying it whether they admit it or not. Then pay attention to what they remember versus what they forget. These people have perfect memory when it comes to failures and mistakes. They can recall specific details from something that went wrong 3 years ago down to what day of the week it happened. But accomplishments? Those just vanish from their mind completely. Bring up that promotion from 6 months ago, and they look confused like it never even happened. Meanwhile, they still bring up that embarrassing moment from forever ago like it was yesterday. The selectiveness of their memory is not an accident. People remember what matters to them, and clearly struggles and failures matter to them way more than success ever will. Social media makes all of this even more obvious too. Post about going through a hard time, and watch how fast they show up in the comments or the DMs with paragraphs of responses and concerned messages. Post about a win though, and suddenly they are nowhere to be found. No like, no comment, no nothing. Or they finally respond 3 days later with something super basic that took zero effort. The pattern repeats itself over and over, and it shows exactly where their interest actually lies. Now this second sign hits different because it deals with the future and what could be instead of what already happened. Think about that moment when excitement takes over and the decision gets made to finally go after something that has been sitting in the back of the mind for months, or maybe even years. Could be starting that business, or going back to school, or learning a new skill, or moving to a different city, or just trying something that feels scary but right at the same time. That feeling of possibility fills up the chest, and the first instinct is to share it with someone who is supposed to care. But watch what happens next, because this is where everything starts to make sense. The person listening does not meet that excitement with matching energy or encouragement. Instead, they immediately switch into this mode, where they start pointing out every single thing that could possibly go wrong. They call it playing devil's advocate, like that somehow makes it helpful. They start listing out all the reasons why it might not work, and all the obstacles that might show up, and all the ways it could end badly. And they do it with this tone that sounds like they are just being realistic or looking out for the best interest involved. But here is the thing. Real friends do not dump cold water on dreams the second they get shared. Real support looks like acknowledging challenges might exist while still believing in the person going after what they want. This is something completely different. Then comes the comparison game, which feels even worse somehow. They start bringing up what other people are doing and how those paths seem more practical or safer or more likely to succeed. They talk about someone else who tried something similar and how it did not work out for them. They mention how other options might be better or smarter or more realistic, given the circumstances. Every comparison is designed to make the dream sound smaller or less important or not worth the risk. And it works too, because doubt starts creeping in, and that initial excitement begins to fade under the weight of all their so-called concerns and realistic observations. Pay attention to the specific words they choose too, because language reveals everything. When dreams get shared, they respond with things like, "That is cute," or "interesting," or "good luck with that." Those phrases sound supportive on the surface, but they carry this dismissive energy underneath. Cute suggests something small and unimportant, like a child talking about what they want to be when they grow up. Interesting means they find it odd, but not in a good way. Good luck with that basically translates to this: "Will probably fail, but go ahead and try anyway." None of these responses show genuine belief or encouragement. They show someone who does not actually want to see success happen. And here is something else that becomes impossible to ignore once it gets pointed out. These same people never ask follow-up questions about progress or how things are going with those goals. They show zero curiosity about the steps being taken, or the small wins along the way, or any of the actual journey. But they will ask about everything else. They want to know about work drama and relationship problems, and what happened over the weekend, and every other mundane detail of daily life. The lack of interest in what actually matters is deafening. When someone cares, they check in and ask questions and want to know how things are moving forward. When they do not care, or worse, when they do not want success to happen, they avoid the topic completely. They also love redirecting conversations away from goals and dreams as fast as possible. The subject gets brought up, and within seconds they have changed the direction to literally anything else. They interrupt, or they suddenly remember something they need to talk about, or they just flat out ignore what was said and start talking about themselves. The message is clear without them having to say it directly. They do not want to hear about it, and they definitely do not want to encourage it. Sometimes they even suggest smaller alternatives that feel safer to them. Instead of supporting the actual goal, they start proposing these watered-down versions that completely miss the point. Someone wants to start a business, and they suggest just getting a stable job instead. Someone wants to travel, and they suggest just looking at pictures online. Someone wants to make a big change, and they suggest just staying comfortable where things are. They frame it as being helpful or practical, but really they are trying to talk someone out of going after what they actually want. And the worst part is, they do all of this while claiming to be supportive, which makes it even harder to recognize what is actually happening. Now, this third sign is probably one of the most painful ones to discover because it involves trust being broken in ways that are hard to come back from. Trust forms the foundation of any real relationship, and when that gets violated, everything else falls apart pretty quickly. So here is how this plays out in real situations. A conversation happens in private, where something personal gets shared. Maybe it is about a struggle with money, or a problem in a relationship, or something embarrassing that happened, or a fear that does not get talked about with most people. The information gets shared because there is supposed to be trust there. The expectation is that what gets said in confidence stays in confidence. That is how healthy relationships work. But then something strange starts happening. Other people start knowing things they should not know. Someone brings up that exact private situation in a group setting, and suddenly it becomes clear that what was supposed to stay between two people did not stay there at all. The information traveled, and it traveled for a reason. When the person who shared it gets confronted about it, they always have the same response ready to go. They act shocked and say something like, "Oh, I thought everyone knew," or "I did not realize it was a secret." That response is designed to make the person whose trust got broken feel like they are overreacting or being too sensitive. But here is the reality. People know exactly what they are doing when they share information that was told to them in private. They know it was not meant to be repeated, and they chose to repeat it anyway. The way they share information is strategic too. They do not just randomly tell everyone everything. They pick and choose what gets shared and when and with who. Notice how they never share the good private things. They do not go around telling people about private victories or positive things that happened or kind things that were said. They only share the information that makes someone else look bad, or creates drama, or damages how others see that person. The selectiveness is not random. It is intentional, and it is meant to harm even if they never admit that out loud. Timing matters too. They do not just share private information whenever. They wait for the perfect moment when it will cause the most damage. Right before an important meeting or event. Right when a new relationship is starting. Right when things are finally going well. The information drops at the exact worst time possible, and it is never a coincidence. They have been sitting on it waiting for the opportunity to use it in a way that hurts the most. And when it comes out, they play innocent, like they had no idea it would cause problems, or they claim they were just concerned and had to tell someone. The excuses are endless, but the pattern is always the same. Then there is the way they twist things when they retell them. The words get changed just enough to paint a completely different picture than what actually happened. Something that was shared as a vulnerability gets turned into something that makes someone look weak or foolish or problematic. The context gets stripped away, and what is left is this warped version of the truth that does not represent what was actually said. But now that version is out there and other people believe it, and the damage is done before there is even a chance to defend or explain. They also love having these conversations in group chats or behind someone's back when that person is not around to defend themselves. Private matters become entertainment for other people, and everyone gets to weigh in and form opinions based on twisted information. And the person it is actually about has no idea any of this is even happening until it is too late. The violation runs deep because it is not just about one person breaking trust. It is about that person turning private pain into public gossip for their own entertainment, or to make themselves look better, or to damage someone else's reputation. When they get caught, they always act surprised or defensive. They flip it around and make it seem like the person whose privacy got violated is the one causing problems by being upset about it. They minimize what they did and refuse to take real responsibility. And the really messed up part is they were probably asking detailed questions about sensitive topics in the first place, just so they would have more ammunition to use later. The whole thing is calculated from start to finish, and once that pattern becomes clear, it changes how everything in that relationship gets viewed moving forward. Trust is not something that just automatically gets rebuilt, and when someone shows they cannot be trusted with private information, that is a sign they do not deserve to be in an inner circle at all. Now, this fourth sign represents something that needs to be understood at a deep level, because it reveals the core of how certain people view relationships. Real friendship does not operate like a competition. Real connection celebrates when the other person wins and supports them through challenges and genuinely wants to see them thrive. But some people cannot function that way. Every interaction becomes a contest in their mind, and they are keeping score even when no one else is playing the game. This is not just annoying behavior. This is a fundamental problem with how they see relationships, and it means they cannot truly be happy for anyone else because they are too busy trying to prove they are better. The pattern shows up immediately when something gets shared. Someone talks about an achievement or a good thing that happened, and before the sentence even finishes, the other person is already jumping in with their own story that is supposedly bigger or better or more impressive. It happens so fast it feels automatic, like their brain cannot process someone else having a moment without needing to top it. They cannot just listen and be happy. They have to make sure everyone knows they have done something similar, except their version is more extreme or more difficult or more worthy of attention. The one-upping never stops, and it drains the energy out of every conversation because nothing can just be celebrated for what it is. Then there is the scorekeeping, which becomes obvious over time. They are constantly comparing who has more or does more or achieves more. They remember who paid for dinner last time and who helped who move and who got promoted first and every other detail that turns a relationship into a ledger. They treat friendship like a transaction where everything needs to be balanced in their favor. That is not how genuine connection works. Real relationships are not about keeping score or making sure everything is equal down to the smallest detail. They're about showing up for each other without counting who did what and when. Watch what happens when they see someone doing something they like or achieving something they want. Suddenly they are doing the exact same thing. They start pursuing the same goals or buying similar things or copying the same style. It is not about genuine interest. It is about not wanting someone else to have something they do not have. They cannot stand the idea of someone being ahead in any area, so they rush to catch up or do it better or finish faster. And they do it without any acknowledgement that they are literally copying what someone else is doing. They act like it was their idea all along. The dismissive attitude toward other people's strengths is another huge tell. They downplay what someone else is good at while constantly highlighting their own abilities. Someone is good at something and they find a way to minimize it, or suggest it is not that impressive, or bring up how they are better at something else entirely. They cannot give genuine compliments without adding qualifiers that take away from the praise. It is always, yeah, that is good, but or I mean anyone could do that, or that is cool, but have you seen what I did? The inability to celebrate someone else without bringing themselves into it shows everything anyone needs to know about their character. They also steal the spotlight whenever possible. Someone is being recognized or celebrated, and they find a way to redirect attention back to themselves. They interrupt with their own stories, or they make jokes that shift focus, or they literally just start talking about themselves until everyone is paying attention to them instead. They cannot handle someone else being the center of attention, even for a moment, because in their mind, there can only be one winner, and it always has to be them. Before important moments, they love to plant seeds of doubt. Right before a big presentation or interview or event, they question competence or readiness. They ask things like, "Are you sure you are ready for this?" Or "Do you really think you can handle that?" Or "I just do not want to see you fail." They frame it as concern, but it is really about undermining confidence, right when it matters most. And when something does not work out for someone else, they celebrate internally while pretending to be sympathetic on the outside. The fake concern is so transparent once someone knows what to look for. This pattern is exhausting and damaging because it prevents real connection from forming. No one can be themselves or share their life or go after their goals without it turning into some weird competition they never signed up for. And the lesson here is simple but crucial. People who truly care do not treat relationships like a game they need to win. They do not keep score or compete or try to one-up or steal moments that belong to someone else. They show up with genuine support and celebration, and they find joy in seeing the people around them succeed. Anyone who cannot do that does not deserve space in an inner circle.
Period.
Now, I need you to take a second and think back to the last time something went really wrong. Not just inconvenient, but actually difficult or painful or scary. Maybe it was a family emergency or a health scare, or something fell apart financially, or a relationship ended badly, or just one of those moments where everything feels like too much to handle alone. In those moments, the people who truly care show up. They drop what they are doing and they check in, and they offer real support, even if it is just sitting there in silence. That is what actual friendship looks like when things get hard. Now think about who was actually there during those times versus who suddenly became impossible to reach. This fifth and final sign is one that cannot be ignored because it shows the truth about where someone stands when it really matters. Some people are around all the time for the easy stuff. They show up for parties and dinners and fun outings and casual hangouts where everything is light and entertaining. They are right there in the group chat making jokes and planning the next get-together and acting like they are fully invested. But the second real support is needed, they disappear like they never existed in the first place. The phone goes straight to voicemail, or the text gets left on read, or suddenly they are dealing with their own crisis that came out of nowhere. Pay attention to the excuses because they always sound the same. They are too busy with work even though they had plenty of time to post on social media all day. Their phone has been acting weird even though they were just responding to other people. A family emergency came up even though this is the third family emergency in 2 months. The excuses repeat themselves, and after a while the pattern becomes impossible to miss. When something is asked of them, they suddenly have a million reasons why they cannot help. But when they need something, or when it is time to have fun, they are available immediately without any issues. The delayed response pattern tells the whole story too. A message gets sent asking for support or help, and hours pass with no response. Sometimes it is days before they finally get back with some half-hearted reply that does not even address what was asked. Compare that to how fast they respond when the conversation is about something that benefits them or when plans are being made that they want to be part of. The difference in response time shows exactly what they care about and what they do not. Then there are the broken promises which might hurt more than anything else. They say they will be there or help out or show up, and when the time comes they bail with some weak explanation that does not even make sense. They cancel last minute, or they just do not show up at all and act like it is no big deal. Meanwhile, someone was counting on them and now has to figure things out alone. The flaking happens over and over again until it becomes clear that their words mean absolutely nothing. What makes it worse is watching them be available for other people while being unavailable for the person they claim to care about. They have time to help someone else move, or be there for someone else's problem, or show up for someone else's event. But when it comes to offering that same energy in return, suddenly there is no time or ability or willingness. The comparison is painful, but it is also clarifying because it shows where they choose to put their effort. They also have this way of making someone feel guilty for even asking for basic support. When the pattern of unavailability gets pointed out, they flip it around and suggest that too much is being asked of them, or that they have their own life to deal with. They make it seem like expecting them to show up as a friend is somehow unreasonable. But here is the thing. Asking friends for support during hard times is not too much. That is literally what friends are supposed to do for each other. The fact that they make it seem like a burden shows they never really cared in the first place. Think about the difference between how they act during fun times versus serious moments. At a party they are fully engaged and laughing and present, but when a serious conversation needs to happen, they are checked out and distracted and trying to get away as fast as possible. They minimize problems or suggest it is not as bad as it seems, or tell someone to just get over it instead of actually being there in a meaningful way. The energy shift is dramatic, and it proves they only want the good parts of friendship without any of the responsibility that comes with actually caring about someone. Real friends show consistency. They are there when things are easy and when things are hard. They do not pick and choose when to show up based on what benefits them most. And anyone who has someone in their life that fits this pattern needs to understand something important. That person does not actually care. They might say they do, and they might act like they do when it is convenient, but actions show the truth. And the truth is, they are only around for what they can get out of it. When real support is needed, they disappear every single time. That is not friendship. That is someone using proximity for their own benefit while offering nothing of real value in return. So here is where everything comes together. These 5 signs just laid out are not theories or possibilities. They are real patterns that show up in real relationships, and recognizing them changes everything moving forward. It might hurt to see these signs in people who are supposed to care, but knowing the truth is always better than living in denial. Not everyone who shows 1 or 2 of these behaviors necessarily hates someone, but when multiple signs show up repeatedly across months or years, that deserves serious attention and honest evaluation. That gut feeling that something has felt off for a while probably was not wrong. Trust that instinct moving forward, because it is picking up on things the mind tries to rationalize away. Real friends show consistency between what they say and what they do over time. They do not just talk about being supportive. They actually show up and prove it through their actions again and again, without keeping score or making excuses. Quality matters so much more than quantity when it comes to inner circles. Having 2 or 3 people who genuinely care beats having 20 people who are just there for entertainment or gossip or their own benefit. Create distance from anyone who showed up in these 5 signs without needing some big dramatic confrontation. Just pull back and protect that energy, because it is too valuable to waste on people who do not deserve access to it. And here is what happens next. When space gets created by removing or limiting contact with people who do not actually care, that space opens up for real, genuine connections to develop with people who actually want to see wins happen. Anyone who watched this entire video and goes back to accepting these behaviors after everything that was just explained is choosing to stay stuck. That is not harsh. That is just honest. The information is right here. The patterns are clear. The choice now is whether to take action or keep letting people who do not care take up valuable space and energy and time. Real change starts with being honest about who deserves to be close and who does not. And speaking of taking action right now, there is a video popping up on the screen that the algorithm knows will serve what is needed next. Do not ignore it. Click on it right now, because what comes next builds on everything that was just learned here. The algorithm does not get it wrong, and that video is exactly what needs to be watched next to keep this momentum going. So click it now and keep moving forward.